Hello, everyone. It's Michele Maher here, and I'm joined with Kathryn RaRa Myers this afternoon. And thank you so much for joining me on my Pivot with Positivity show to have a discussion about what we've been going through these past several months now, and just keeping a positive mindset, pivoting in your life and your business. So thank you. If you want to just give us a few words about who you are.
Thank you so much, Michele. You know, when I met you and I saw your name, I thought, oh, we just pronounce it differently. So we're Myers and you're Mahar, but it really looks similar. So I thought, what a nice connection to have. In addition to, of course, as you can see, I'm sporting your amazing jewels. So my name is Kathryn Asaro Mayers, and I'm so passionate about RaRa. You know, I branded myself like almost 13 years ago. So I'll tell you that I am from New York in case my accent starts to slip out. It does, either when I speak fast or I get tired, but I'm not tired today. And I'm here in Ontario for about 13 years. Prior to that, we lived in Montreal for about 26 years. So we've been very fortunate. I've been very fortunate to live in 2 different countries and a few different cities, and to live in different types of homes. And during this time, we definitely saw changes. So we did pivot right along with what you were talking about. We felt it upfront and personal in our personal lives and in my business, The Bridge.
Right. Yeah. So as we were saying before we got on camera here, I just really felt like I was living in a movie at the beginning when for me, it was really because I had been at a board meeting for this group that I'm a member of on the Thursday, which was March 12th. And you know, we were together, our normal meeting, there were about 15, 16 of us. And little did I know after leaving that would kind of be the end of it, because that's when I came home. The news was going on all about this coronavirus. And then they announced the NBA was suspending the season. And I thought, what? Like, sports doesn't get canceled. That doesn't happen. I mean, I'm not a sports fan. I don't really watch it, except I did watch the Raptors when they won.
Yes.
But yeah, sports, you know, it just, they don't do that unless it's something really serious. And then that was kind of the beginning of it, right? Then the NHL followed suit, and then you saw everybody being so negative on social media and empty grocery store shelves. And it was like, the fear was like, this is the end of the world stuff, you know, that kind of, I felt like that. And I did go through the panic. I kind of did get on that panic wagon with everyone else. And I went to Costco on the Friday to stock up. And, but after that, when I sat back and was thinking, you know, what can I do? And I kind of flipped it around thinking, I don't want to stay in this fear. I want to get out, like I want to step into action and do something and start to, you know, create a positive space for people to share.
Right. Oh, you brought me right back to, I had a dinner at our home just before they made all that announcement. And we called it RaRa's Real Deal Dinner. Little did I know that would be the last time I got to see those 17 friends.
Right.
Like, who knew? I'm so happy that we did that. And we did experience, actually, we used to live really close to you at that time. We were living in that part of Toronto. And we were feeling it. We were in a building that had restrictions. So this, you know, elevators and lobbies and yellow taping the swimming pool and closing the tennis courts and squash courts, golf simulator, all these things were being, party rooms, everything was being closed. And then there was the shopping, like you said, and we were watching that. And with my background, you know, the mental health repercussion, like this is just tough on people. So where we lived, we saw young people, of course, and children, but we saw a lot of older people, and they were being affected, Michele. We saw that. Like, of course, people weren't able to groom the same way. So we started to see, you know, hair and maybe clothes, and people weren't sitting up and they were slouching and they were worried about food and groceries and worried about survival. And as we were watching that, we were thinking, this is not a good thing. And we knew that it was beyond really what we could do, except what we could do for ourselves. So we pivoted. We got up and we moved. We left mid-pandemic, 6 weeks into COVID. We came out to Niagara-on-the-Lake and moved, thank goodness, from my friend Lenore, who said, hey, would you consider coming out to Niagara? I used to be a Rotarian here. I am a Rotarian still, but I was a Rotarian in St. Catharines first, and then I was a Rotarian in Etobicoke. And when she made that comment, that changed the direction of our entire life. That question and her friendship and action to encourage and put together us to meet the wonderful people that we met. And here we are. You just never know, when you're going to say something to someone and it's going to change their life, and when they're going to take you up on it, right? Because without the pandemic, I don't know that would have been the same. Right. But she knew me enough to ask, and she knew me enough when I said, hey, so it seems to me that in times of fear, we can go back and hold on to things, or we can open up and see what happens. And we really leaned into it. I have to say, it was a pretty brave thing to do. It wasn't an easy decision. It may have looked easy because within 24 days, here we are. And so we're so grateful. And it was a tough decision. There were a lot of decisions that we had to make to distance ourselves from people that we loved in our family. And that was not easy at all, but we made the decision based on what we were looking at, our age, our community, our mental health, and how we would respond, and how we would build ourselves up. So I do totally understand. I remember the supermarkets. You're too young for this, but my husband would go on senior time. So when we would food shop, he would go at like 7 a.m. once every 2 to 3 weeks. Do you remember that?
Right. Yeah.
And we couldn't have 2 people in a household going. So he would go, because he's a little more senior than I am. So he would go, like 9 years for the record. So he would go, and I wouldn't even go food shopping. And that started to really bother me, because I was no longer doing things that were very normal to us. That was just like ripped away.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And with no warning, really. That's the thing. Yeah, I felt like there was no real warning, even though we saw that it was over in Europe, that it was coming. It was over in Europe because for me, my daughter was supposed to go on the Europe trip for grade 11 Europe trip for March break. And that was going to be London and Paris and Rome and Florence. So that was canceled probably. Well, the school board just canceled all the trips, but it was only about a week before it was supposed to be. But we already knew, like, she wasn't wanting to go over there and get stuck over there. But
nobody did.
But it just, I guess, none of us necessarily thought that it was going to shut down the way and just so quickly. And then all of a sudden, everybody was coming, all of a sudden they shut down downtown Toronto, all those office buildings, and everybody was at home. And it just all happened so quickly that everything just shut down. And of course, the whole, like you say, the mental health side of things, we go back to our primitive nature, and you get into that fear and survival mode, but that's not where we want to be or stay. So you have rise out of that and be conscious of the fact that you can make choices, and like you said, you can see the choice there to do something, because certain things you can't control, but there's so much you can, and also the opportunities that come out of it that it wouldn't have been otherwise if it weren't for the pandemic. You probably would still be in that same building.
It's amazing because we would not have spoken to our friend, and maybe they would not have had the conversation with their best friend, and it might not have come up. But we're
Yeah.
so grateful, so grateful for the gift of communication. I realized that many years ago, you didn't talk about things, right? You didn't talk about things if they weren't like really easy to talk about and happy. I wasn't shy to talk about this is not really good for us. And we really are looking for another solution. Like we really want to leave where we're living. So I felt that the gift of communication is what brought us together, is what brought you and I together as well, right? Communicating is what really makes a difference. And many, many years ago, having all these years in the business of psychology and personal growth with different businesses and individuals, people used to feel that if you spoke about something that wasn't great, we were stigmatized. But it's not the case, especially now. It's really important to open up and share. And I encourage anybody who's watching this podcast live or as a recording to open up to someone and, bridge the gap, not to bring that into what I'm going to talk about, but in real life, we need to bridge the gap. We need to talk. We need to talk to people, to humans. We need the human connection, of course. That's what we're all missing. But we still need to make that connection. And look what we did before the show and how we talked and how we have a chance to get to know each other beyond, look how you helped me. Oh my goodness, like you helped me. I wasn't shy to say, I don't know how to do this, or I didn't do it right. Or, we just communicate with each other and don't feel bad about telling somebody how to do something better because we're not perfect, right?
Right. And it's funny you say that too, because so many people I've had conversations with, well, first of all, I've had more conversations in this past I guess we're going on 9 months now, than in years probably. And also because of this technology we have, I've communicated with so many people on a global basis as well. So many people in the US, part of the Fem City group that I lead in Etobicoke. I've met so many members of from all across the States as well. And just so many people have echoed the same thing, that they've had much deeper conversations about and more meaningful conversations than ever before. Even though we're on the computer and we're not physically together, it's funny that it's been a more communication, but more meaningful and deeper, and as opposed to the superficial conversations we might have at networking events where we just talk about the weather and the traffic.
And Michele, I've watched people, because I'm a very big observer, I've watched people on Zoom do things like this, and I think, we're face to face. Please put your phone down.
Yeah, true.
Please, unless it's sending you something that you need that we're doing.
As part of it. Yeah.
Right, as part of what we're doing. I really appreciate the fact that we can call each other out on it and say, is now a good time or not? Is it the right time to have this conversation? When we were in person, I think we used to get away with a lot of different things. I think we used to sneak in a few, like, oh, just give me a second, or I'll be right back, or go to the bathroom and come back. How present were we? We are present right now.
More present, right.
So we had, about 12 years ago, I started an international online business. Well, I'm an executive with Send Out Cards. So that's a network marketing company. And I learned to communicate with people all over the world. So we were using Skype at that time, like 12 years ago, right? So I was familiar with doing that. And I thought that was so cool because you have customers and team members all over the world. And I was thinking, that's cool, right? We just communicate with people. And it was not the norm to get on Skype or whatever we were doing, but we were getting used to it. And then I created my other business, which I had worked on for so many years, which I call The Bridge. And I was face to face with people. I used to rent the Richmond Hill Country Club. When we moved out to St. Catharines, we used to go to different wineries. We would get together. I had a part of the home that we would get together in, and then we would go out and visit the wineries and have lunch and have events once a year called Celebrate You. And we would invite people. They were always very boutique. But the Bridge ambassadors, as I call clients, we would get together, maybe 10 or 12 people, and we would have this connection. And as my husband and I moved away, we started to move a little bit more towards not being physically in touch with people and taking, other types of calls and not doing group meetings. And by the time pandemic hit, I was already doing everything online. Anyway, I would host a meeting maybe once a year, twice a year, call it Celebrate You, or do something in the middle of the summer. But I pretty much stopped doing those monthly meetings, renting out country clubs or hotels. It was more country clubs. We had the best times there. So I was already adapted to that. So I didn't really have too much of a swing or a pivot. And as you know, and thank you so much for being so generous and a sponsor for us for our show, Gratitude Girls. Gratitude Girls is all online. So we have a show once a month. So we're doing exactly this. So that didn't need to, and my partner's in Lori Delk in Columbia, Tennessee. So that didn't need to change. Then I have a podcast. That's a podcast without any audio. My partner, Dr. Joe Piazza, we call him Dr. Energy. Dr. Joe and I are doing a podcast every week without video. It's audio only. So that didn't change because our guests are all over the world. And that company is called BU Network. And Michele, we do everything online there, online courses, as you know, I was telling you about that, or any of the coaching that we do. So that business didn't need to pivot. Although when we started, we were doing what most people would call a workshop. So everything that we are doing now and that I am doing is exactly like this. It didn't need to do a 360. The clients that would come to us in different businesses or ambassadors in the bridge, they were having some changes, right? Because some of those businesses were face to face. So we were able to address that. And we noticed, funny, when you come out to the farm, like we live in agricultural green zone, when you come out here, nothing, like the farmers were still on their farm. They were still doing what they had to do with the grapes. Yeah. And that still went on. And it was really a beautiful thing to be able to see nature and life not taking such a big hit. I mean, obviously there was it affected the world, but we were able to see some normalcy, and that played such a big part on me being able to call on myself to be strong and to be in the right place to bridge the gap for myself and with my ambassadors. I don't know how I would have handled that if I were going to watch everything deteriorate. I mean, I consider myself a strong woman, but we don't know. We don't know what straw is going to be the straw that just really makes it tough for us. We knew that we physically and emotionally and mentally needed to stay strong. And being around nature is what did it for us.
Yeah, no, oh, for sure. It's nature rejuvenates. And I think that's why so many people, when we were really shut down back in March, and everybody was home, and the kids were home and not even doing any schooling. Everybody was going for walks and getting out into nature. And so many people who didn't make that the time for that before, because it would be like, the way we were living things, rush, go, go, go. Right. This event to this event, this appointment to this appointment, and never making that time for themselves to step out into nature and just be with nature. And that really, there's nothing more grounding than just sitting out in nature. And it's something we need as humans too, because we're so connected to the earth, which I think we've in some manners lost that connection. And just like we've lost, even though we're so connected with the phone and the technology and the internet, we had kind of lost our connection with others, like real connection with people. That Michele, was kind of lost.
You're absolutely right. And one of the things I wanted to mention, my husband and I were talking about this at like 6:00 this morning. I said to him last night, I miss going to my physical hot yoga class. We were going 6 and 7 days a week for about 2 years straight, maybe more, maybe 3, the whole time we lived there. And we were thinking, well, we'll be out in the country. It's not the same. 6 o'clock this morning, I said, okay, what do I need to do? So I used to be a personal trainer as well. What do I need to do? I am making this connection with people, but I'm sitting, or I'll stand, or I'll stand while I'm on my laptop, or I'll take a call outside because I can, but I'm not moving as much as I used to. So I'd like to encourage everybody to connect the mental, the mind, and the body, that if we choose to move less, we are going to see a repercussion somewhere. If we're going to sit in the chair and not say, hey, Fitbit, tell me to get up and do a few steps, or grab the elastics, or pick up the dumbbells, or touch your toes, or I ask Alexa to stretch with me for 6 minutes. Oh, if I said that, she may talk to us. So I make sure that there are things and bells and whistles that get me to, start something. And my husband said, okay, I know what we're going to do. You're going to put it in your calendar, and you're going to pick 40 minutes every day, wherever you want. And you're going to physically go and do the thing that you love to do. And I said, that's a fantastic idea. Like I asked him, and I knew he would come up with the solution. So why I'm saying this is, in terms of pivoting, we may be moving less. We're getting in the car less. Mm. We're not wearing the same stiletto shoes with those skirts because we're not going to those meetings, right? We're not dressing.
So we're not really wearing shoes.
It's true. I have pink iridescent hunter boots. They're my go-to things. Like, they're just gorgeous, but they're nowhere near a stiletto. So I'm thinking that if I could give this tidbit, or I would say piece of advice, to keep yourself physically in shape, to do something physical. You may not want to do yoga, or you may not want to pick up weights, but whatever it is that you want to do, choose it and then put it in your calendar. I do it throughout the course of the day, but that's not as intentional as, and I could grab my elastics. That's how close they are. But it's not about that. It's about stepping out of the environment and saying, this is for me. I'm going to eat. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to do my yoga. I'm going to stretch. So as we're making this pivot into this digital world, make sure we take time for ourselves. So I need to take more time. Like, I know I'm not doing enough activity. I try to hit 10,000 steps a day, but trying doesn't mean I do it. So every day I'm not hitting 10,000. Some days it's 7,000. And I'm like, yay, it's 7,000. But I still want to make sure that I am physically doing something. So when we pivot our business, we need to pivot everything else and stay grounded and make sure we take care of our bodies along with our minds.
Right. That's true. Because now everybody is at home, working at home. There's no division between home and between work and family time. And like you say, everybody's sitting, having a meeting all day, and that now self-care is more important than ever for your, not only physical, but mental health too, right? We need to take care of ourselves, because this has been an emotional roller coaster. Like we were saying earlier, I know for a lot of people, it was waiting until we get back to normal. The talk was that at the beginning, and we thought it might go till April, and then all of a sudden, it was extended, and then it was summer, and so I found that even for me, it's been like kind of a roller coaster of emotions. But we have to take care of ourselves, and also the physical point. That's a great point, because it's not good to be sitting at the computer all day. And you can continue. You can be so tempted to just continue working.
Yes. Well, there's that whole bridging the gap. If we were out networking, we would know when our meeting would start. We would schedule it. We would calculate the distance in between. We might or might not decide to take a lunch meeting. It depends on how you ran your business and how you organized yourself and worked with your timeline. And you would know at some point you would get home. So when you're working from home, and I have experience with that, when you're working from home, it's to have a designated space. It looks like you do as well. If you're working on the dining room table, like, good luck to having, your sacred space. space and being able to step out. When I'm out of my bridge room, I'm in my home. When I'm in my bridge room, I'm working. I actually hang out in this room too, because I really love it. My husband and I come and have conversations in here. We have lots of plants and I have a great view, and I'm surrounded by all kinds of things that clients and ambassadors and friends give me, crystals and stones. And it's amazing. And of course I have cards all over the place. And so this is important, but we need to know when it's time to give the body what it needs, to listen to it. I'm imagining when you're making these beautiful pieces that you're in a zone of doing it. And I don't think you could do that for 12 hours a day, but I can sit on Zoom for 12 hours a day. I could actually book myself hour after hour after hour. And that is not a good thing, because we need to be fresh. We need to eat or take a walk. So when you're doing something alone with yourself, right, nobody really knows, although your energy is in that, and I can feel it. And this is such a great piece. But when we get on Zoom, right, we want our makeup, our lipstick, we want to have clean hair, we want to have clean clothes. People are in front of us. So we do have to create, I don't want to use the word balance because I feel like it's an overused word, but we do want to create what we need so that we can function at a high level. And that includes our thinking, reaching the higher vibrations, the time we have alone, the time we allow ourselves to really heal and empower ourselves. It's not just about how many people can I talk to and what's going to happen? Because why did it go to that? Why did people pivot to how many calls can I have? And what's happening with that?
Right. Yeah, true.
Right?
True,
you hear people say,
it's, then you're going back to how we were before, where we were just busy being occupied, but not necessarily doing anything that's creating that, meaning and your passion and living the life you want. And
yes, exactly. Michele, here's my ideal scenario. Friday is fun Friday. Whatever I do on Friday, it has to be fun. That's my personal rule. And I would like to have my entire week done on Monday and Tuesday. Done, absolutely necessary. What I need to do, my recording, my coaching, my editing, I'd like to have all that done. And then on Wednesday and Thursday, I'd like to be able to have the necessary ambassador appointments that are required and sessions and the phases that we go through. But Friday is fun, period. End of subject, non-negotiable.
Yeah.
If it's a business appointment, it needs to be fun, but it really has to be fun for me. And then I schedule the rest of the week accordingly. And when I started to do this and make it very obvious to the people around me, I started to step into it and live it. Prior to that, I remember going from Monday to Saturday thinking, wow, I work a lot. But that didn't make me any more effective or efficient.
Right.
So I think it's important that while we're pivoting with things that are going on, is to consider what you really need, or what are you capable of doing? Are you capable of doing your week in 2 days or 4 days or whatever that needs to be? And are you really able to spend time with yourself and nurture yourself and have self-care? Because without self-care, I would say to someone, when's the last time you did a facial or had a facial for yourself? Do you go to an esthetician? Do you have somebody pamper you, or do you take the time for yourself? And if I hear someone say, I'm really busy, I slow it down specifically to say, let's talk about what you enjoy and let's find a way to do it together as friends.
Right.
I think it's high on my list of priorities.
It's so true, because the only way that you can, because especially for us as women, we're always giving. We're born nurturers. We're always giving and giving, and you can't give unless your cup is full, as the saying goes. So you really need to, and you also are going to be that much more productive as well. And I just heard something, talking to somebody yesterday, and they were just saying that you wouldn't be running your car on empty. You wouldn't let it go to that, and you wouldn't keep driving it like that.
Exactly.
And so why do we do that with ourselves? And I feel like, I don't know, maybe because it's been so long, I kind of feel like some people are getting back into that busy. I don't know.
I would recommend taking something like a sticky note. I'm really big on what I call bridge mapping, as you can see. So I would take a sticky note and I would put it on your laptop or on your desktop and say, self-care.
Yeah.
Breathe. Stretch.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you look at it, if you had to pay a bill and you said, oh, I don't want to forget to pay my Bell mobile bill, or maybe it's automatic or whatever bill it is, you pay my, whatever you have to do. If you would remind yourself about you. You don't have to remember to pay your mortgage or your rent or your car, because most of those things are automatic. And you're making sure, maybe you're checking on it, seeing that everything, the way you check on that, check in on you. And see, how is your check-in balances, right? Are you needing to make a deposit into your emotional health and well-being? Are you debiting your emotional well-being? Do you need to add to your physical strength? I mean, think about that, perhaps how some people look at their money, and look at your time and create that. Like, I took so much time today. I wanted to make sure that my hair had these curls, and I was, plumping and doing this thing with wrapping my hair in a cotton shirt. And I just did what I want. It's Fun Friday and I wanted to be ready for you. Mm-hmm. And it's not like I just wake up and it happens, right? So it takes some work. And it was really nice to know that today was the day that I got to do this so that I could hang out with you. It's really fun. It made me feel like I was taking care of me, because you know what girls do for girls, right? We do for our husbands as well. But I was taking care of me so that I could present myself to you at my best. And I made sure I did things like I ate really healthy, and my husband brought me ginger and turmeric. I drink ginger root and turmeric with lemon. I don't drink any caffeine. And I made sure that I did things that I could enhance so that my voice would be good. And this was a big deal, because it wasn't just a meeting we get on a Zoom and we talk. It was me presenting myself to you. Right. So I took care of myself for that. And if we all did that, if we all considered our appointments or the part of the day where we could really boost our own ego by helping ourselves and talking to people who lift us up, we might have a better time, even though we're in the middle of, and I know Toronto and Peel, and I know the zones and the areas and parts of the world that are having so many things that go on, but I still encourage to bridge the gap with important things that are important to us, and listen to our gut, of course, because there is no food or no pill in the world that's going to change how we tune into ourselves. Like you were talking about your car. True. You don't leave your car not functioning. You just don't. You need it. We can't let our bodies and our minds not be functioning. We need it.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And what earlier on when we were really shut down, even now, so many distractions have been taken away from us, that we've have the time to be present and think about what is important to ourselves, and looking back on what we were doing before and what we felt we needed, figuring out what do we really need, what's important, and what are our values, but also what did we, a lot of us have lost things that we used to love doing as a kid. So many things that, yes. And it, like you say, getting back to having fun.
One of the things that we do, I don't know if you do this, I look for recipes and I find 1 or 2 or 3 a day. And I send it to my husband and I say, what do you want to make today? And I do this on a daily basis. And yesterday he gave me such a fantastic compliment. He said, I really appreciate that you take your time in your busy day to actually go out and search recipes. It's not like we don't know what to make, but I found something and it said sweet potatoes with whipped feta. I'm like, what's whipped feta? So we look at it, we talk about it, and we decide we're going to make that tonight for dinner with a protein. And he said, I love that you do that. I love that you go out and search a particular soup or a salad so that we can do it together. And I find that in this pandemic, because we're in the house and we don't go out to eat, we're going to make, everybody else has done it. We're late starters, late bloomers. We're going to make bread. We're going to use our bread maker. But what we like to do, excuse me, is come together and make something. Decide together. It really has a connection. If I say, hey, Michelle, what do you like to eat? Oh, let's talk about this. I use food as the food mood connection. Many years ago, when I had my psychology practice, and that business was called Brooklyn Heights, I created a food mood connection. And I bring this into my business, The Bridge. And if you think about like 6 weeks, I would do this for 6 weeks with you. We would talk about when you eat and what is your mood and what are you doing when you're eating. Do you know how many of my patients would say, well, I ate in the car, or I ate over the sink, or I ate while I was doing this with the kids, but I really don't know why I don't feel so good this week. The food mood connection is really important right from the get-go of deciding what to eat, being present. How many times someone would say to me, I have no decision on what I eat. You know, my wife and my husband puts it out and I eat it and I'm really a victim to food. Oh, no, you're not. Take your initiative. Decide, take some action towards it. I look for recipes. We go out, we purchase it. We do make it together. My husband might execute it more because I might be doing something else. And we sit down and we eat and we're grateful for our food. That helps to heal our bodies. So that in itself might be a tip because we're home together. Go find, you don't have a recipe? Call me. I have got recipes. I look up 3 a day and I'm sort of a foodie. And sitting around, this is what happens. We think about food, but we're looking at healthy foods. So maybe we want to do something together as girls, as girlfriends, or with our spouse, or maybe with our children. Include them. You know, it could be simple, like cutting up an apple or a pear, but what would you like to have for snack? And let's do it together. I find that this really helps. And the Food Mood Connection diary that I created over 20 years ago, I'll give you a little tip. If you really want to look at how to improve your body's well-being, aside from what you eat, think about what you're doing. So my food mood diary, I'll sort of spill it out, would ask how many hours you slept. When did you go to bed? When did you wake up? Did you wake up in the middle of the night? For how long? Someone might say, well, I went to use the washroom. How long? Does that mean you got up and went on your phone for half an hour? What did you do? Because when someone says, oh, I'm really tired today, I don't know. I could go to sleep at 12 and wake up at 4:30 and not be tired. It depends on what I did and what I ate. Last night I went to bed at 9. At 9 o'clock, I was asleep. My husband said, you know, you worked hard today. Why don't we, like 3 minutes later, I was like, we were talking, we were reading, and next thing you knew. So this doing it together and deciding is very empowering. So this food mood diary really gets into what are you doing? And when you have to write it and you think about it, as soon as you put it in a book, as soon as you have to say, oh, at 8 o'clock I ate, but I was standing at the sink, you get a different snapshot. So when pivoting in this time of this pandemic that we're in, or any aspect of life we're going to pivot into, take a good hard look at how you do the things that nobody else knows about you. And take a look at what do you think that means. And if you want to have a conversation about it, by all means, like, let's have a conversation about it, a friendly conversation, because I can point some things out that I bet we can do a little tweak, not anything big, and we can probably increase how your energy can be enhanced, or if you lost it, you can feel it. Food mood connection is really big, especially now that we're all home and we have a different, let's say we have a different approach towards food since we can't go to restaurants. And maybe that's a good thing, right? There's a shortage of yeast and flour or something. I don't know, not over here in Niagara, but if you need it, let me know. I'll get it to you. But when we do decide that we want to take care of our minds, we start by taking care of what we put inside our body, and not just the outside, but the inside, so that we can glow. I love what you're doing. It's such a great subject that you allow us to talk about this and share tips with the men and women that tune into your show.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. That's great. Totally. and it's so funny when you say that, you know, what are you doing? And people, so many, I can think back how many times I'd be eating in my car and just, or eating, you know, like, here's my 5 minutes, hurry up, get something to eat and go.
Yeah, we all do it.
And now we can be more conscious about it all because we have the opportunity. Like you say, we're not eating out, you know, at restaurants the same way either. And so many more people are cooking at home and cooking together.
Yes, yes, and bridge the gap between what we used to do that didn't serve us to what it is that can serve us.
Yeah, so that when we, you know, we do continue to do that and make new habits and everything like that too, because I know looking back at what was happening before and just always feeling like we couldn't catch up. Now it's time to create a more, you know, more meaningful life that's leads to more happiness, of course, as well. But not rushing around the way we were before.
We talked about that before. You know, Michelle, I'd like to put together a happiness event so we can talk more about it offline. But my goal is to tap into the happiness. Last year, we did Joy, Happiness, Success event with my friend Elena Nivotova. And we did that at the Old Mill. It was in October. It was, Old Mill. It was amazing. That's when my Rotary meetings were. So it was a year in October. And I was speaking to Elena and said, you know, it's a year. Like, we really need to touch base with those wonderful people that came to us. So we're going to put a happiness event together. Of course, it'll be online, right? There's no question about it. And we really need to do this before the end of December. There's no question. Even if it's like 2 hours on Zoom, we have to tap into that. So we're going to highlight the different ways to do that. And if you have any questions, you know, just let me know, because I'd love to be able to, you do something that's really happy for people and you can share that. And if we could, you know, amplify that. Oh, I have a Bridge Ambassador. That's the name of her company. So I'll give a shout out to Amplified Social, to you, Olivia. So if you could amplify that, that is really the key. So amplify your happiness, you know, ramp it up, vamp it up, level it up. That's key. And I'd like to be able to do that before the end of the year for the people that, that know me or don't know me, and it'll be a small group. So I'd like to include you in that.
Oh, thank you. That would be great. And just like, as you say that about amplifying your happiness and everything, if it's shown us one thing with this pandemic, it's shown us how connected we all are and how the actions of one person affect everybody else. Yes. And the domino effect of the whole thing. So when you amplify the happiness, it will then, you know, it's like that commercial back in the 70s, the shampoo commercial.
Oh gosh, which one?
It was the shampoo with the little people, the little screens, and she tells one person, and then she tells one person, they tell one person, and it goes on, you know, and all of a sudden the screen's full of people. Same thing. We need, and that's what we need. We need to spread happiness and joy and love. Love is the other thing as well. That's just what the world really needs right now. No judgment, just spreading love and happiness.
Yes, you're right. We'll stick together and we can do that. And you have such a beautiful platform here. And I just love your background. It's so happy to look at. You have pink and all this bling. You know, how could you not? Like, I have books and stickies and everything that represents the bridge. And I'm thinking, yeah, I love what I have here. It's me. And I love what you have. And I'm thinking, what is that pink thing over there? I want that. It's just so nice to watch what other people have behind them. And it's really uplifting to look at your surroundings. So thank you so much for all that you do, especially right now. I sort of want to talk to you about more jewelry now because you do such a great job at it.
Oh, thank you. Yes. It's, that's a way to spread happiness as well, for sure.
It is, Michelle.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me today. It was great.
My pleasure.
Great conversation. And I will put your information up on the underneath this interview when I put it up as well.
Awesome. I like to enter and exit the room by saying RaRa's in the house. Michelle, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And look forward to when we can see each other again.
Yes, me too. Thanks.
Thank you.